So the first part of the writing challenge to do with boat people is to do with the who, and the who is the character in your story. And I think for me, once I've got a character right and I've got an idea around my character, it helps me write a story. So in the story you may have just read, the one called Denmark to Sweden, 1943, which features Henny, the very brave young woman, and the boat who's helping the Jewish people escape from the Nazis. I started with the who, the person that the story was about. But I also, like, what was really important with basing a story on a real person is the testimony of that character. And we're really lucky to have that video, which if you watched it, is Henny in later life talking about how remarkably brave she was when she was younger. And so that's how I use the who in that story. So in this set of 5 writing sort of challenges, I suppose, we're going to start with who, and I've chosen someone new. You can choose a refugee who you're really interested in. You might have chosen Anne Frank, you might have chosen Alphonso Davies or someone else. I've chosen Ben Helfgott, and I found a photograph of him, and I'm just going to fill in this sheet that I've suggested that you fill in to help you develop your character. So, and I'll try and do it so you can see what I'm doing. So the character is called Ben Helfgott. In fact, he's called Sir Ben Helfgott. So I'd write his name. His age, I know he's roughly 96. So I'll put 95 plus. And his country of origin is Poland. And he is Jewish, and he was born in Poland in the 1930s. And so that, I think that's an important fact, because he was Jewish, and he lived in Poland when the Nazis invaded. And so that's your first sort of facts. His name, his age, his country of origin, and another fact that you can think about him. There you go. So I've written all that down. Now I've given 3 other boxes that we can, and what I try to do is I try to fill in the 3 other boxes, and just to give me a bit more idea of who my character is, and that'll help me later on when I'm doing the where, when, why, what, how, and whatever else there is. So his family, he lived with his parents, and he definitely had, I need to double check, but I know he had one sister. I think he had 2, but he had a sister called Marla, who is still alive. She was also a Holocaust survivor, as Sir Ben Helfgott was, and they're both still alive, and they live in this country. And there's an amazing story around them. So that might be what I do as my story. So I've done a bit of information about their family, but he lost all but Marla in the Holocaust, which is a really important fact. What do they do now? So Ben, he's retired, and he lives in London, or near London. He does a lot of charity work, helping refugees, because he was a refugee in 1945. He does a lot. He's always done a lot of work, which is partly why he's a Sir. He's been recognised for his amazing work. But another fact, you might have noticed on the picture there, the Ben Helfgott I'm showing you is a weightlifter. He was a weightlifter, so he survived the concentration camps, and he went on to become a weightlifter, and he went on to lift weights in the Olympic Games, which, I mean, there's a lot there already to go on, isn't there? So I've kind of done a bit of research into him. I've found out his age, his name, where he's from, a bit about his family, what he does now, and the remarkable fact for me was that he was a weightlifter, and that is my character. That is my character sheet. And when I'm coming to planning a story, I will have that character sheet, and I'll add it to my other sheets, like the where, who, what, etc. And that will help me to develop a story. So that is my who, or my character sort of planning for a story. Thank you for listening. The next one is going to be the where, when, which is to do with setting.